All right, now I'm here with Jeff, right in front of Stonehenge in CryptoVoxels, and very excited to talk a little bit about Axie, about play to earn, and about how Web3 is revolutionizing video games. So thank you very much, Jeff, for being with us.
Thanks for inviting me. Super excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, here let's take a little walk around. We can explore a little bit around the central district of CryptoVoxels as we're chatting. I guess first, just give me a sense of Axie and the kind of game theory that you guys have been exploring and finding with getting the economy right. It seems like it's absolutely figured out a brilliant economy, but maybe tell folks at the Virtual Being Summit who might be a little less familiar with it, how the game theory works and how the economics works.
Sure. So yeah, I'm Jeff. I'm co-founder of Sky Mavis. We're the inventors of Axie Infinity. Axie's goal is to introduce the world to crypto through something that's fun and nostalgic and accessible. So each Axie is maybe a little bit reminiscent of kind of like a Pokemon or a Tamagotchi. They're digital pets. You can battle them, you can collect them, you can breed them. And I think the thing that's really caught the attention of the world is that you're actually able to use them to earn in-game resources. These in-game resources are represented as, cryptocurrencies or tokens that actually have real world value and liquidity. So this is created in this concept of a game where the stakes are very real. Axie is the first game that's really owned that has like a fully kind of player owned economy. So yeah, the economy is definitely not figured out. We've built it iteratively alongside the community over time. We've been building since 2018. We've been building since before you could even see your Axies. So we have really built things step by step. So first, okay, we revealed the Axies, then you could sell them, and then you could breed them, and then finally, right, you could start to battle them. And then we've upgraded the battle system many times, and we're working on further game modes. Yeah, like I think one of the reasons that I was very interested always in talking to you, Edward, is that part of what I think is really important for the future of Axies is to kind of endow them with some sort of sentience to ensure that people, right, feel really connected to them as, in a similar way that they would to a physical pet, I guess.
And we've talked a little bit about AI and how that might, start even non-verbally and just kind of a little bit of responsiveness and then get more and more complex over time. Have you been tracking Aletheia AI and the idea of intelligent NFTs and some of their work?
Yeah, I'm interested in it. I'm not sure what the state of the art is. I have a feeling that this is something to keep an eye on and for us to potentially come in at the right time and really blow it up and make it big. But I might not be caught up on the state of the art, and I think there's not much right now that's really affecting consumers at scale. But yeah, I think it's.
I think you're right to be, yeah. I think you're right to be kind of, questioning where is it at? Is it actually good enough? Does it work? But I think you're also right to be curious that AI could create a deeper emotional connection with the characters, because I think that's true. Maybe tell folks a little bit about how kind of Smooth Love Potion works and quests and kind of how kind of the jobs that are being created, because I think that's something pretty mind-blowing to folks in the AI space who are obviously always thinking about automation and like taking away jobs, that this is actually creating jobs.
Definitely. So I guess I need to maybe clarify some core kind of economic concepts. So we as game developers, we do not sell the digital pets that are required to play the game ourselves, right? So when someone wants to start playing the game, they need to buy Axies from the marketplace. The only way to create Axies is to breed them using an in-game resource called a smooth love potion. The only way that these potions can be created is through gameplay. So each smooth love potion, we call them SLP, is the result of effort and skill and time spent in game. So the only way that an Axie can be created is by burning a certain amount of SLP. So each Axie is actually proof that a human played Axie for a certain amount of time. So yeah, when there are new players Axie, the only way that they can play is if there are more Axies available than there actually are players, right? So this actually means that we need to think about not just like the current demand system, but the future demand shocks that might affect the Axie market. So yeah, because there is demand for Axies, and we do not just print up Axies, right? There's basically scarcity around this resource called SLP that can only be earned by playing the game, and that's actually what right creates liquidity for it, demand for it, and basically we've now created this system that's created hundreds of thousands of jobs in emerging market countries like the Philippines, Venezuela, Indonesia. In many cases, people are earning far more than their minimum wage in their home country just by playing Axie.
And we have YGG and Ready Player DAO speaking as well, so that there have actually been kind of groups that support you to play, right? So that you can kind of you can buy your first Axie or be a fractional owner of your Axie and play it. Is that kind of, do you think that's just going to grow and grow, that trend, as Axies become maybe more expensive? I don't know. How do you think about it?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think the guilds do a really important service for the entire economy, right? Where we have this kind of contradictory mechanic where, right, Axies are expensive because you can use them to earn real money, right? So they actually have, right, like kind of this ability to earn. So they're kind of like the shovels of the metaverse, but right, when you're able to shovel things with real value using your Axies, that increases the demand for them, increases the price of them. So we've had these institutions or guilds really that have just come in and acquired Axies in bulk and are then lending them out to the people who really need them the most but can't afford them, right? So these are called scholars. They're often in emerging markets, and they're signing in many cases, right, these kind of like token sharing agreements with the guilds.
Super interesting. Why? I mean, I think a lot of our audience in AI will be familiar with CryptoKitties a little bit, which had a breeding mechanism, but why? I mean, all right, I'll be honest, me too. I'm curious, why did CryptoKitties, where was it SLP that was kind of the big difference, and there was just a lack of scarcity because everybody bred lots of CryptoKitties, or where did that kind of go in a different direction?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so actually a lot of us actually come from the CryptoKitty community. I didn't know that. Yeah, so I was one of the top CryptoKitty breeders, if not the top. I'll let other people decide on that.
That's so cool.
So 3 of the 5 co-founders of Axie met playing CryptoKitties. And yeah, actually,
it's a good question, and I'm really proud of myself for asking this question.
Definitely, there are definitely some similarities, right? So our idea was that, right, there needs to be a core team that for years, not weeks, continuously upgrades and pushes the project forward, right? That doesn't mean that I believe that a majority of the work on Axie right now is done by the community, but right, we still are there to provide direction and leadership and confidence, and right, do some of the hard things that cannot be necessarily like given to the community right off the bat, right? So things like education, community management, and onboarding, right? These are the things that I think the community can do really well at the beginning. But then things like game design, economic design, right? Like the creation of this system of property rights in the game. These are things that might need like more top-down coordination. Anyway, so we basically, right, like CryptoKitties was kind of, I guess, decentralized or abandoned like very early. Whereas we've continued to work on the project for around 4 years now, right? So we've been able to upgrade we've been able to upgrade the economy, upgrade the gameplay, over time.
That's so cool.
a lot of I believe that like a lot of our contracts are or a lot of like our initial contracts, like the breeding contract, marketplace contract, are quite similar as well. So some people, you might see the early Axie community is actually a fork of the CryptoKitty community, and in that way,
That's
maybe
fascinating.
CryptoKitties.
But did CryptoKitties have like? I presume CryptoKitties didn't have that kind of SLP scarcity.
Yeah, so that was one of the things,
breed,
right?
Like, that's a pretty good innovation.
So one of the things that we saw is that, right, like the ability to breed a cat should not be something that anyone can do. It should be something. It needed to be something that, right, was earned, and that ability to earn the right to breed could be something that could be, right, like a monetary policy lever, right? So it's like if you're right, like you basically, it's like the emission rate of the Axies is very important. It needs to be, right, not too fast so that they inflate and go to zero, which is what happened with many of the CryptoKitties. But it needs to also be fast enough to accommodate player growth, right? So, right now we have around 7 million Axies, and they're only 2 million. There are 2 million players, 7 million Axies, right? So it's like we're almost at capacity, basically, right? So we actually, in order to grow, we need to actually continuously have new Axies being created, but that rate, right? It's kind of like, you know, the Axie community are all in a club, and right, they're the only ones that can create tickets to get into this club. But they need to make sure that, right, there's enough room in the club. They have to make sure that, right, like the line outside the club is also, right, like the appropriate length. So it's like the price of an Axie, right, can be seen as like, okay, some function of space within the club at a time and the length of the line outside, something like that.
And so have you guys kind of mapped out your projections of like how many Axies there'll be in like 12 months if growth continues and breeding continues? Or I guess you have levers to change the rate of breeding through the monetary policy. I mean, I see it sometimes on Twitter that you adjust this or that. It sounds like that must be quite a burden on you.
Yeah, it's really fun to experiment because
Jerome Powell or something.
Yeah, it's really fun because we get to do experimental monetary policy through a in-game economy. It's something that, you know, I actually always wanted to be a central banker, not always, but there were times in my life when I wanted to be a central banker. So we're able to do these, right, like, you know, live experiments, and we're definitely learning along, you know, as we go. I wouldn't say that we're the expert, you know, I wouldn't say that well, maybe we're the experts, but I wouldn't say that we've perfected the model yet. I think it's going to get more collaborative and more community driven over time, perhaps more data driven over time as well. But yeah,
is there a similar need to worry about asset bubbles and to worry about like crash, boom and bust? And I mean, that is what a central banker would worry about. And I'm sure a lot of people look at Axie and think, oh my God, like the more players there are that rely on it, the more of a risk it is, as you know, because it's so powerful and so important.
So I wrote my thesis on, you know, the South Sea bubble, the Mississippi bubble, and typically, right, these bubbles happen because the governments get afraid of the bubble and then try to pop the bubble in a very inefficient or strange way. So I think, like, you know, there are certain things that you just have to accept and, right, like try not to basically right, like you sometimes you may want like, right, like a soft landing or something, but oftentimes the medicine is worse than the sickness when it comes to that kind of monetary policy, and we've seen it many times throughout history.
And is your equivalent of raising interest rates like raising the amount of SLP that you need to burn to create an Axie?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the levers, right? So,
that's super interesting. And I mean, I guess as you grow to 30 million users with, I mean, it is, I guess, can you have more users than Axie? Is that viable? I guess they could share an Axie, or how would that?
No, it's also right. So to go back, right, like we definitely do make projections of, right, how many Axies we want for how many players. Oftentimes, right, we set goals, and those goals become the projections, right? Sometimes, like, you know, sometimes if you make something a goal, right, it tends to come true. So yeah, that's kind of, you know, it's a little bit of an art.
For how to kind of grow that. But I guess as you guys do grow, and have more users and more axes, and you know, how do kind of economic, how does the economic side stay safe? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, how do you not cause an economic crisis in a country or something once this thing has grown by 10x or 20x in terms of users? That's becoming quite a big deal, right? I mean, that's important.
Sure. I mean, it's impossible, I think, right, to guarantee that there won't be, right? Like right now, we're kind of an emerging market economy. That means that we're growth dependent. We're definitely subject to, you know, capital inflows and outflows, and that can throw things out of balance, but also like create a lot of excitement and strong emotion. So that's just part of it. Like we're building a country, we're building a nation. I think we're just blessed to be a part of this, right? We can't guarantee stability. Trying to guarantee stability, I think, would be, yeah, it would be, you know, immoral almost, or just, you know, kind of go against my ethics. Like that's not something we can guarantee. I think we can guarantee that we're going to try to do things that have never been done before. We're going to do things that we believe are interesting, and we are going to stay true to our principles of co-ownership and co-creation, and property rights for everyone, right? And this idea that blockchain is a transformational technology that will change the world and empower people. If we can introduce the world to blockchain through a fun game, then, right, like we're actually creating economic freedom through a fun and accessible package.
I love it. I mean, I don't know if you've seen WorldCoin, where it's an orb that scans the iris, but I feel like I would bet on a game over a terrifying orb that scans your iris and then gives people cryptocurrency to be the more likely thing to spread it. Well, I guess one final question is just about where, well, I guess in two parts, where it goes next. One part being, are you guys working more on other games or on other game modes within Axie? And then I'll ask the second part of the question.
Yeah, definitely. So long term, right, we're definitely looking to introduce other types of game modes within Axie. So for example, we're also building out a land-based game.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you'll be able to harvest resources, fight for control of territory, and even build maybe experiences on top of your land, like mini games. So long term, we think that it'll be impossible for Sky Mavis or the Axie core team to build everything that the community wants to see, and it'll be necessary for us to open up the content creation of Axie for community developers, third-party studios, right? So we believe that we're a first market in an industry that will become huge, and obviously, yeah, we want exposure to all the amazing talent, community members. And yeah, we think that, you know, that Ronin, so we've actually built also a platform to build NFT games on top of. It's called Ronin. It makes NFT games fast, easy to use, easy to create. We've built this thing Ronin, and we think that it can be a launch pad for other strong IP that are looking to, right, basically create these games that are also digital economies and owned by the players that love them.
Well, then the second part of the question is sort of where do you see it going in, let's say, 5 years, and maybe it being Axie and also the broader play to earn world.
Sure. So, right, the future of work is changing, right? Like automation is destroying jobs. So we need to rethink what it means to actually work in the future. And we believe that work is going to get more fun. We believe that human beings offer, you know, certain things that AI and robots can never do, like being, and yeah, so we believe that play to earn and play and earn games are the future of work. We believe that Axie is just the first one. And we think that it's going to be incredibly empowering. We also believe that it will have profound impacts on society and even world politics. We see what we're doing as nation building. We're creating a country. It's just, right, a cloud nation right now. It has no physical borders. But this may change as Axie grows and spreads across the world. We're already seeing meetups, right, that are popping up, and people start, really wanting to meet each other in the real world. And I think this is going to be an increasing trend. And I think that we have, right, like the capacity to become a real UN recognized nation eventually. So that would be one of the, I guess, like big fat goals for the future, at least from my perspective.
That's a good one. I mean, forget about just a digital city with friends with benefits. Just fuck it, go all the way to a digital country. I think it's very cool. I mean, it seems the most sophisticated economy that's out there, and it seems like having an earnest central group is pretty important to that, having a long range vision. So yeah, it's just so exciting. And I hope that today, I mean, part of my goal is that we bring together the Web3 and AI people. And I hope that some folks listening will try out Axie and then start to think about how do we bring AI to these play to earn experiences? How do we bring AI to these characters in a way that is humble to the state of the art, and also is really fun, because there's still a lot to learn about how to have fun. So thank you very much, Jeff. This was super cool. We didn't get to walk around too much, largely because I just was very transfixed by this. I mean, it's probably the most exciting project in all of Web3.
I'm super ADD.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for taking time with us.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Yeah, I'm super excited about everything that you've been doing. And yeah, no, I'm so enthralled by the future of AI and viewing Axies with some sort of intelligence, where they could have like emotions that are perceived by their owners. I think the cool thing too that we were talking about in person is that like we don't have to, like Axies wouldn't necessarily, the bars maybe a little bit lower where they wouldn't have to speak and be like 100% like
exactly.
Speaking complex language. Could be more that, okay, like you haven't logged in for a week, your Axies are a little bit more clingy, like your dog, after you come home from a long vacation, right? So I think with a pet, there's actually a lot more design space and maybe low-hanging fruit. And I think we're kind of like lean. We believe in like lean development. So it's like, I actually think that like if I were to have any advice, even though I'm not qualified to give any advice to the virtual beings people, I would say that like maybe I think digital pets are low-hanging fruit that might be a little bit unintuitive to look at, but I have a strong demand for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant, and I think language is almost a distraction because it's so difficult to get right.
Because everyone puts it through what's it called? The Turing test?
The Turing test, exactly.
Everyone wants to do a Turing test on AI, but like, with an Axie, with a pet, it's more just like, oh, wow, it loves me. I feel some kind of emotion that I'm typically only used to getting from a living, I don't know, physical pet.
Well, a lot of the areas that are exciting in AI are about spatial understanding as well. If you guys do create a 3D environment with like, land and all that and mini games, like, these characters could be taught to navigate as well. Just like a dog can walk around and navigate and kind of feel as though it's simulating a life where it's hungry or needs this attention or that attention. Cutting language out could actually be a pretty big unlock to just make something that's
super bullish on that,
focused entirely on fun.
Yeah, I'm really bullish on that thread. So yeah, love to explore it.
Well, if somebody's in the audience inspired today, then go for it. Start getting some Axies, join a guild, I guess, unless you're able to put some disposable income into an Axie, and then just see what ideas come up about how to give them intelligence, of not just the linguistic kind. All right, thanks, man. I super appreciate it, and we're going to move on to our next talk. But this is super fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was awesome to be here.